Next speaker is Matthias. He's one of our colleagues from Switzerland. Welcome. And Matthias actually recently joined 20 Minuten. Haven't been a year yet, right? If I'm not correct. Yeah. So the thing is, we already mentioned 20 Minuten, and he will actually share the story how they managed to transform one very traditional paper newsletters into something that is one of the most successful product at the moment at TX Group. So the stage is yours. This is the pointer for the presentation, and good luck.
Hello, hello. Hello. All right. First of all, who am I? Why should you even listen to me? I come from a city called Bremen. It's in the north of Germany. We have a lot of rain, bad weather, flat land. We play soccer and drink beer. That's where I come from. The most notable thing about me from my youth is perhaps that I played unhealthy amounts of computer games. And yeah, that's a big part of what I did. It's still definitely a part of me today. After finishing school, I definitely didn't want to go to university because school was so boring. University must be the same. So instead, I lived in a car in Australia and was a hobo until I figured out maybe having a career is a good idea after all. So I went to Switzerland, to the wonderful university that we have in Zurich, to study physics, and had a very difficult time there studying physics. I also spent some time in Hong Kong at this university, which looks like a park, which was really nice. I also spent some time here. This is the University of Tokyo, where I did research on quantum information theory for some time, until I didn't want to do it anymore because it was really boring. And then I had to enter the serious part of life. I had to get a job and earn money. And so the first thing I was kind of like a IT project manager. So I was kind of like Darth Vader, changing the scope. Afterwards, I did that for 2 years. For another 2 years, I actually went into sales. So I was the guy calling you when you don't want to be called and try to sell you our beautiful software. I did that for 2 years. It was really good, actually. Yeah, anyways, different topic. I also was a consultant for about 2 years. And this meme, by the way, is much truer than I'd like to believe. But yeah, basically Googling and then making beautiful slides and do it fast. So I did that for 2 years. Very good time. Not really. I was a startup founder for 2 years, which is painful, but also amazing. And this is where I met 20 Minuten, haha, because we tried to build a product, we failed, and then we tried to do B2B because that's what you do. And the first customer we found was 20 Minuten back then, back in the day. And I thought that's a pretty cool company. Maybe I should work there someday. Then I worked at a Silicon Valley company for a year. That was amazing, kind of like more or less a dream. I just wanted to know, what are they doing there and why is it so successful? I did that for a year. That was really cool. And now I'm at 20 Minuten. And maybe you don't know what 20 Minuten is. So I can also tell you very quickly what 20 Minuten is. 20 Minuten is free. And we're the biggest newspaper measured by reach in Switzerland. We have around 3 million readers daily. And our heritage is the thing on the right. So we used to be really big on giving everyone in the country the newspaper when they took the tram or the train or the bus or whatever. And all around the country, you would find the newspapers everywhere. And then that's how everyone got to know us. These days, we're more the thing on the left side. So yeah, paper. Actually, people really still like paper, but it's hard to get people to advertise in paper these days. So it's much more about app and website and, these digital things these days. Yeah, we make around 100 million francs in revenue, 300 employees, and that's 20 Minuten. And then I was also asked to quickly comment on why would physicists choose to work in news media. What the hell is going on there? And actually, I thought about it, and I don't think it's so far off. So you could think of the intersection of science and art, and theoretical physics is definitely there. Maybe it's a little bit more to the scientific side of things, but really doing consumer product management is also there. At the end of the day, it's pretty similar. You really have to try super hard to understand what is it that makes the world tick? What is it that makes people click? Why does it work like this? And then you need to have a good hypothesis. Then you need to define the right experiment. You need to be analytical, but you also need to be intuitive. And that's why actually it's not that far away. So yeah, maybe it's a good recommendation to make to your kids. If they want to become product managers, you can study physics, because you can't study product management at university. Anyways, so news media in 2024. And that's where the title comes from. AI wars at Exodus and news zombies. Can journalism outrun the apocalypse? And honestly, there isn't just the elephant in the newsroom. There are many elephants in the newsroom. It's really a troubled industry. So I think the number is now approaching actually 50%. So almost half the population in Switzerland doesn't want any news. There's a term for these people now. They're called news deprived, and they just don't want news. And the number is growing rapidly. And there's an underlying problem, which is that people don't want what we have to offer. Our product, not just ours, for all the news companies, somehow doesn't work for now almost half the population anymore. So that's a bit of a problem when you're a news company. But it gets worse. In Switzerland, I think it's now over 70% of the money that people spend on ads goes to California, because people buy their ads on like Meta, Instagram, Google, all these places. So more than 70% of the money to be made doesn't even go to Swiss companies anymore. It just leaves the country. Yeah, so that's a problem. But okay, we may deal with it. Then this one is more of a, let's say, an indicator. A study found that recently, of all recent articles that were published on Medium, those articles were AI generated. So that kind of means that really the core of our craft, which is to write these articles that people might want to read, is getting automated away, is becoming like a staple. Or is it? We don't know, but it's definitely making us be scared. And then this is kind of the final ingredient to create hell. Newsrooms really aren't like super modern tech companies. They're actually not that quick in adopting new technologies, new ways of working, etc. And this is a statistic here that I think it's from 2023, only 5% of newsrooms use AI for news gathering. It's not that this particular statistic is the most striking, but it's a well-established statistic, and it just gives you an idea for how little people use the modern technologies in the newsroom. And so to make matters maybe not worse, but a bit challenging, like Milica said, I only joined in the beginning of this year. And kind of when we came, me and the CTO, we joined at the same day, on the 1st of February. We kind of found this here. So there's a mad newsroom on the left, which is like ablaze with wild journalists doing great work, having great ideas all the time. And then we had like 2 product owners and 1 designer, and then they had to somehow turn this madness into tickets. And then we had some very sad and depressed engineers who had to work on these tickets. They were like, I don't know, were you very sad? Just nod. Yes. So this was kind of the situation. Of course, I'm making it seem worse than it was, but that's kind of how it worked. Um, and also the process that, at least this seemed to be the process, was kind of build, 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 build. There were these genius ideas, and then they were just built. And that was the process. And yeah, basically, that's how we felt. But no problem, you can just write down what the problems are and then you solve them. So the problems are news deprivation, decline of ad revenue, LLM revolution, and old school journalists. So the solutions are pretty clear. You just need a new product, a new business model, a new value chain, and new ways of working. And so that's basically the challenge, and that's what we're doing now. But honestly, even this, it always starts with the product. It's like, if you have dog food that the dogs want to eat, then you can also build the business model, then you can do the rest. But as long as your dog food isn't eaten by the dogs, you have a big, big problem as a dog food manufacturer. So you just always have to start with the product. You need to have something that the people really want, and then you can build the other things on top to turn it into a great business. So the real challenge that we had to tackle head first was kind of we had kind of like a devil's triangle going on in the company that made us not be able to build good products. And the triangle kind of worked like this. First of all, there was a lack of product leadership. I don't just mean as, oh, we had a bad product leader, but also as in, it's not understood that like product managers would say what product we build or would have a big say in it. It was kind of understood that that's kind of still what journalists do, and then we build that kind of. And that's a problem because journalists don't necessarily know what the right digital products are to build. The second problem we had was we just had a lack of resources. I mean, 3 million daily active users, 100 million francs revenue. There were 2 not even full-time product owners and 1 designer. And then you're supposed to build a world-class product. It's not realistic. And almost like a consequence was there was almost no product discovery happening, which means that we just built. And the problem is you can only really break out of this if you solve all 3, because you can't solve the others. If there's one that you don't solve, you're still in trouble. So you needed to solve all 3 at the same time, because if you don't get more resources, you can't do product leadership and product discovery. Or if you don't get product leadership, then the resources are just going to chop away faster on tickets that we shouldn't do. So that was the challenge. And now is almost a year later, and we're definitely not at the goal, but we're, I think, on a good path now. At least it feels really good to me. And we're now in this situation where on the left, there's the kind of the monopoly of the newsroom. We're cutting away from it, and we're trying to bring the readers in way stronger into the mix of what makes us build a product. We're doing all these interviews, we're doing surveys, we're measuring usage, we're doing all these things to find out what the readers really want in 2024. Of course, we're also working with the newsroom. We're a newspaper, kind of. But yeah, we bring them both into the mix. And then we have a huge nerd now, that's me, and I make nerdy things like a product strategy, which wasn't something we had before. And also, we now have let's say we have 4 product trios, and each product trio is responsible for one area of the product. Like, for example, Karen, that you met earlier, she's the product manager in the content experience trio, and it's a trio. So there's a design lead and a tech lead, and the 3 of them have to work together. They have to decide together and discuss together, so that design and tech, very importantly, are part of all the decision making and the discovery from the very first day that you just have an idea of what you might build. And also, of course, as a consequence, all the engineers are now extremely happy. They're like, they can't contain it. In every meeting, they're just laughing and expressing their joy. So that's great. See, Jovan is, again, he's already laughing. Yeah, yeah, he's so happy. Yeah, and also we're now doing, I mean, if you're like a product professional, you're going to say, now you're doing proper product management, but that's a good thing for us. We're now doing proper product management. So it's not just build, 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 but it's much more about understanding what the heck we should build. Really building stuff, if you're not getting smarter on what will be the product that will drive you for the next 10 years, you might as well not build. So really the core thing is about understand, discover, deliver, learn, and doing it all really well. And we're still not great at it, but we're getting there. We're working on it. And also, it's not that bad, because I did make I made a bit of a bad picture for news media in the beginning. It's not that bad, okay? We're still, at least in Switzerland, we're still the #1 news app downloaded, excluding ones that get subsidies from the government. Also, we still have the #1 best positive brand as a news platform in the country. And also, just in terms of what websites get visited, only Google and Facebook are ahead of us. So we're not yet in a bad position. Actually, in Switzerland, we're still in a really, really good position. And I think we're also early enough to become a state-of-the-art consumer product company. And I don't know yet what the future is going to be. That on the left is, by the way, that's our app. I don't know yet what will be the news app to win the next 10 years. But definitely a lot in there will be what we are today, because what we are today still really works and people really want it. But probably there should be a lot more Twitter in there, or just being a platform, being a network, having user-generated content, having debate, having wild opinions, getting the most interesting people on your platform and express themselves. Probably that has to be in the mix. Also, I don't know if you know Axios, but they the way they make content is so that in the minimum amount of time possible, you get the maximum amount of insight or smartness possible. That's the way they make their content. And I think there's something there. People really like getting really smart really fast. I think something of that should be in the mix. And then the one on the very right, I even forgot the name, but the one of the biggest challenges is the kids. The kids don't care about the news at all, not at all. So what about that? Could we live in a society where young people don't consume any journalism? And but there are interesting approaches, and the one on the very right goes all in on gamification. Basically, it's a game. It's kind of like Duolingo, but you're not learning French. You're learning what's happening in the world, and it's making you feel good about it and making you feel accomplished when you get informed about the world. So I think these are good examples, and honestly, we have initiatives running on all of these ideas and more, but we don't have the answer, but that's part of the solution to not have it yet. And that's it. That's what we're doing.
Thank you very much. So I need the microphone. Do we have any questions? Anybody? Should I start again? Okay. So you mentioned, I think that was one of the first slides, like the solution was easy, new product, new way of thinking, new everything. How the team reacted to that? I mean, it's not easy to implement such a huge amount of new things in a fairly short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we came in and then we quietly analyzed everything for 4 months and then we were like, all right, by the way, we're doomed. So now we have to do everything different. It came over time and everyone was aware of these things. And it really comes step by step. This is really just if you abstract away a little bit from it and then you make it sound more dramatic for dramatic effect,
Okay.
then you can write it down like this. But it's not like this is how it happened. It never happens like that. It comes step by step, but over time you realize, and then you see the pattern, and then you're like, okay, yeah.
It works. And since you're turning a lot of to the customers, so can you maybe share a bit more details about, how do you explore and how do you collect, I mean, not collect data in technical way, but actually what kind of information are the most useful from the customer side?
I mean, we're not doing anything crazy. We're having just lots of user interviews all the time.
Mhm.
So it's not like we have this one thing that we want to find out, then we do 5 user interviews, but actually we just have them all the time. Every second week, we have a number of 1 hour face-to-face. We try to have as many of them as possible on-site interviews, and then we just talk to them a lot, and we listen to them a lot. And yeah, of course, we're trying to follow best practices, but no rocket science involved. We're also doing surveys. I mean, one advantage of being a newspaper with a lot of traffic is you can put a survey on the front, and after 3 hours, you have, I don't know, 250 responses. So very quickly, you get lots of survey responses. You can do this. We also started to really look at usage data. Like so often the case with data and analytics, you have it, but you don't look at it, and then it doesn't impact what you do. So I feel like the big challenge there very often is just actually look at it and make it change what you do, because if you don't, then why have it? And then one thing that may be fancy but isn't that fancy, there's a company in Switzerland called Kaplana, and they have trained an AI, and they're doing it for years. So you can put in unstructured text data, and it analyzes the entire data and structures it for you. So you can, for example, you can just ask people, what do you think about the app? And then you get 300 text responses that are random. And then you can throw it in there, and then it analyzes everything for you. And it says which statements have what sentiment, what features does who want, what audience, no. So that's a really cool thing. I would probably recommend doing that. We just started doing it, but that's good. But really, I feel like the main thing isn't necessarily what fancy user research you do. It's more getting the organization to listen, because it's almost surprising often where you can present the facts, so to say, but then the narrative will play against the facts. Yeah, but that's not, we know that's not true or something. Or so it's really, I feel like the main work is in using the data to have impact. And probably there are fancy techniques to get fancy insights. We're not using them at the moment. We're basic in that way, but we're trying hard to make the data have impact.
For me personally, knowing that you're actually interviewing somebody on site for an hour, it's fancy enough. I mean, honestly, nobody do. I mean, at least that I know. Guys, do you have any additional questions? You're far, far away.
Hi. So I just have one. Basically, you said that the whole company is in a way pivoting to a new like product direction, and that's interesting in a way that basically my question would be, where do you want to be? But I guess you're discovering that along the way. So, what metrics are you following to see that you're on the right path, that you're on the path that you where you want to be? How do you know that half a year from now, a year from now, you are where you want to be?
I mean, I don't think we have a really fancy answer to that. At least I don't have one. of course, at the end of the day, you want ad impressions. And then so the ad impressions make you money. And so that's what you want. So at the end of the day, you want to have lots of people that look at lots of ads. But that's kind of, that's not going to guide you. And I guess we're looking at all the normal KPIs that you would look at. We're looking at how many visits how many visits per user, what are they looking on, where do they spend their time, what features are they using. We're using all that data. But also here, I really feel it's less, I mean, I could be totally wrong about this, but I really feel it's less about what metrics do you follow, and it's more about how do you as a team, as a company, try to make better decisions with the data, the qualitative and the quantitative data. Is really, are you really having debates about what does this mean? Are you looking at features and then you're like, oh, this feature doesn't have usage? And then are you having like a sophisticated, tough debate with people having different opinions? And you're like, why is this? Why is this KPI like this? Is it a bad product? Or how have we just poorly implemented it? Is the button hidden? I feel like that's, in my experience, way more where you lose the traction. I don't think we're following any special KPI. And also, I have to quickly say, because I don't know who's listening. I mean, you guys are listening, but I don't know who else. It's not like the entire company is currently pivoting. It's that the company has awareness that there's so much potential that we're probably not yet getting from having a better product. And there's still a lot of, like, you have to convince people, you have to argue with people, you have to make the case, you have to make a good presentation here, you have to drink the right coffee with the right person there. It's not like the company said, all right, we're going to be a product company now. Yeah, we have to do all the work. Yeah.
And,
Maybe I can also quickly add to that, because I think there's two sides to measuring our success here. One is definitely the user-facing one, where we have KPIs for every initiative that we're working on. And then the other side is for stakeholders. So I really, when I presented the Rapid Redactor in the beginning, I got probably 50 messages every day from stakeholders requesting stuff. And in the end, basically nothing anymore, because we were way more proactive in doing the discovery. And it's also how much you can push back, like how often stakeholders want to go on iterations with you, and how much they believe the data that you bring to them to really be convinced of making a certain decision. And you can really see over time, like over this 4 months or 5 months that I've been here, I really saw that dropping. So they listen to us more because we listen to them more. It's really as easy as this is, because they were really saying thank you a couple of times just for being heard, because they felt like oftentimes had so many ideas, but no one could really hear them. And now they feel heard a lot more, and then they hear us a lot more. So you can really feel that. But when I came, I was actually very surprised, now going over to another question, that with some ideas, stakeholders were very courageous. Like they had bold ideas on how to change the app and how to change things. And then on thinking product, sometimes it was the little things that you couldn't convince them of. And I was super surprised there. So maybe that as a question to you, what was something that really surprised you in the process of thinking more product, but then also building product with the company that you wouldn't have expected to work in that way?
I feel like something that surprised me recently is, and maybe that's special if you work in a news company like we do, but the editors, they're very eloquent, and they're pretty smart, and they're very opinionated. And when you come in and then you want to work on something, and I mean, I guess it's similar in most companies, but I feel like in this company it's stronger. They're like, yeah, and it has to be like this, and it has to be like that, and then we have to do this, and this would be good, and that will be bad, and then the gut reaction, especially if you also spend some time in your life working in a B2B environment, is to be like, all right, now I got to listen to the stakeholder, and then I got to write it down, and I got to get the requirements straight, so that when we deliver, it's what the people wanted. And what I find surprising recently is that, you know, how we try much harder to do the right thing, so to say, and if we really believe something that is different, and then we really push back on it, and then we've done that more, and it actually really works. It's like there's this mental barrier that you have to really arguing against a powerful stakeholder, but now we're starting to do it, and I feel like it's not that they get frustrated or angry with us, but actually they're like, okay, let's do it that way. And then it turns out fine, and then they're like, okay, cool, maybe we should listen more often to you guys. So that I found surprising, I think. Yeah.
If you don't have any additional questions, then thank you, Matthias. It was a great presentation.